I'm not saying they're agnostic or atheist as a whole, but they're just far less religious, I think, is my experience anyway from there. But I don't know if it's true, but you can tell me what you think. So I think that's the difference between why maybe in Copenhagen and, in Denmark, it's not as a big a deal as it is here. If you come to America, if you go to Europe, for example, Americans who go to Europe for the first time will be shocked at, and you really get to know Europeans and get to know their lifestyle and who they are. And generally, depending on if it's a Catholic country like France or what part of France, and depending on what, part of Europe you're in, whether you're in Germany or you're in England or Italy or whatever, depending on religious influence in particular region you're in, I do think that you will see, generally speaking, Europeans are far more open-minded people as a whole, not just about homosexuality, but about life in general. And I've always said that because I think, it's an older culture. The culture is far older than us, although most of us in America come from Europe, to some part of us anyway. I think that the culture in America is so uptight and so fraught with fear and misunderstanding and ignorance that it is a very different world to me, when I've gone to Europe and what I've experienced there. Edemark says, yeah, less religious, and the few Christians here aren't over the top like Baptists, very secular. Exactly. And that's my experience, Edemark, and I think that is correct. I do think that that's very true. And I think it makes a huge difference. I think people are, it's a way of thought. And I think, when we had the Enlightenment period in America and as a world, when America was being founded, it was all about logic and thought and the Enlightenment period coming out of thinking about things through religious goggles and idiocy and really thinking about it more from a perspective of what is right and wrong from a humanistic standpoint. And I think that really makes a difference between Christians in America and Christians in Europe or in Scandinavia. So I do think there's a huge difference. Anyway, thanks for telling me about that, though. I think that's interesting. Before I go, just a little bit about news. Here in Texas, the Texas House has given preliminary approval to a Republican-backed bill allowing clergy members to refuse to perform marriages that violate their beliefs. And they say that the bill protects religious freedoms, but the Democrats say that existing constitutional guarantees separating church and state already allow houses to worship to set their own religious policies regarding marriage ceremonies, which is true. And of course, the only reason they're doing this, trying to or foot this divisive bill is so that they can somehow prevent gays from being married in the state of Texas, which of course is already on the books as law, although it was overturned by the Supreme Court in a previous decision. So we'll know in about a month, in June sometime, what the Supreme Court's decision is, the final decision of the Supreme Court on gay marriage here in the United States. We're going to finally find out whether or not it will be forced to be the law in all states instead of the only 36 states it currently is law in. It will be forced to be the law in all states. And I said, when we began this journey, this process of the gay marriage fight and plight here in Texas, I said Texas would be the very last state to probably allow it. They would do everything in their power, the legislators here in Texas, to prevent gay marriage, because I know how Texas is because I was born and raised here. I know the way people think here, the conservative right-wing nutbags here. So, and that's exactly what's happening. They're doing everything they can, pulling out all the stops, trying their hardest to disallow marriage and to disobey the federal law, which of course is not on their side. Yes, I am in Texas. I am in Texas, unfortunately. Yeah, I was born and raised here in Texas, and it's incredibly, it's as oppressive as you probably think it is for a gay person. I mean, it's not as bad as, like, say, the deep, deep South. Like, if I were in, like, the poor area of the South, like Alabama, Mississippi, those kind of places, or the Ozarks or something. But this Texas is very much about, as a whole, rebellion and fighting against the government and those sorts of things. I mean, that's kind of the culture here because of our history as a state. We used to be a country of our own. And so it's sort of ingrained in a lot of Texans here. And so people who are Republican and right-winged and very anti-gay are very much about going against the grain and doing all that they can to oppose the federal government, because you're not going to tell me what to do because I'm a Texan, blah, blah, blah. I got my guns, you know. So, it's a bunch of fucking idiots that run the state. Texas is run by essentially, it has been a Republican stronghold since the 80s. And no Democrat has been in a major office here for many years now, since the 90s, I think, in terms of, governor or attorney general and big, types of appointments like those. It's definitely a good old boy network here, and it sucks. Fortunately, it's changing. Things are changing slowly, and things are kind of turning around. But because Dallas is an incredibly progressive city compared to the rest of the state. Austin is the most progressive here. It's sort of like the San Francisco of Texas. But Dallas is very blue, meaning liberal. And so we'll see what happens ultimately. Hopefully things will turn around, but I don't know. Speaking of that, by the way, those of you who are listening who are in Texas, if you have never heard of Moot Magazine, MOOT Magazine, you can go to mootmagazine.com. Coming back with new issues on June 3rd, actually. You can go there, and you can also download a digital version of the magazine if you like. And Moot is all about liberal and progressive thought and politics in Texas. But even if you're not in Texas, you might still find it to be interesting. So definitely check it out. What else did I want to talk about tonight? I wanted to talk about, let me see here. Where's my list? I had a list here. Hold on. While I'm doing that, let me get a drink. Hold on. Well, we only have, let's see. First of all, let's talk quickly about the fact that George W. Bush, who, of course, lives here in Texas, actually only a few miles from me, has offered to officiate at a same-sex wedding. Although he did not and will not be doing it because of scheduling conflicts or something, they said. This is the same man who made his entire platform on, quote-unquote, protecting gay marriage, or protecting the heterosexual marriage, or the marriage between a man and a woman, and whatever he said, the moron. So this is the man that doesn't know what the fuck he wants. But anyway, it's interesting that he's saying now he I don't know if Laura Bush has had some sort of effect on him or what, but apparently now he's trying really hard to seem like he's pro-gay. I don't know, but we all know he's not. Oh, have you seen Harry Potter's Matthew Lewis's cover on that magazine? I can't remember the name of the magazine. I think it was what was the name of the magazine? I can't remember, but he's got shots of Attitude magazine. And he was the guy who was in the movie. He was kind of pudgy or whatever, and now he's an adult. He looks really good. And I think it's interesting when you see like children grow up, because they often are quite different than they were as kids. And I don't know if he's gay or not, but check it out. You can see his pictures on Attitude Magazine's website. Before I go, what else did I want to talk about? There's a pastor who spent $60,000 of his church's money on gay porn and trying to find gay dates on gay dating websites. And this is just another example of these fucking hypocrites. And this is the kind of person you want to obviously out. Obviously, he outed himself because he was caught. But he's from Kingsport, Tennessee, another fun southern place where they don't believe in gay people. And he spent between $70,000 and $100,000 on his addiction to gay porn and gay wedding sites, like gay websites like Manhunt. So I don't know. It's pretty scary. What was the other thing I was going to talk about? Sorry. There was something else I was going to talk about before I went. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, sorry. I guess I'm just rambling now. So I want to thank you, Odegaard, for listening to this show all the way from Denmark, if that's where you are now. I appreciate that. I'll be back next week talking about whatever we talk about on the show. Be sure to go to offlimitshow.com and also on twitter.com, facebook.com. Follow me on those pages. Like me on those pages. Also, you can go to iHeartRadio, listen to the show there, and, of course, on iTunes as well. So I'll be back on Spreaker.com as well. I'll be back next week. Thanks for listening, and you guys have a great night. Good night.